Welcome back, everyone, to this special episode of Wisdom Without the Guru. Today, I'm joined again by Antoinette Thompson from Australia. If you remember, she was on the last episode, and she's told her story about how, after many years, she found her way back to finding a purpose in her life. And this came after sexual abuse in her childhood that she kept secret for many years, to a late diagnosis of ankylosing spondylitis, and to a near-death experience and the removal of a tumor that had been wrapped around her aorta since birth, undetected. So out of all of this, she found her healing path, and she created the oracle deck that we're going to be discussing today, called the Pain to Purpose Healing Oracle. Obviously, you can tell from the name that she went through her own healing process as she created it. So I've asked her to speak about that and also how it can potentially help others. So welcome again, Antoinette. I know it's late there. It's early for me. Here we go again.
Here we go again. Let's wing it. Let's wing it on this day. So yeah,
I
thank
did
you.
my lymphatic drainage again this morning. Cold water on my eyes, ice water on my eyes to get down.
Thank you for this opportunity to share my wonderful creation with the world. I'm so excited for everyone to take a peek.
Yeah, I am too. So people will be listening to this and they will also see it because I will post this on YouTube as well. Just so you know, for anyone who's just listening to it, that Antoinette will be walking through and sort of describing the cards that she's going to be showing. But you can always check out the live version that was going to be posted on YouTube, so you can actually see the cards as well. So great. So let's start. So first of all, talk a little bit about the content of the cards and the history behind the cards and how you got to this, because I think it came out of poetry.
It did. It did. It came out of reluctance at first. Well, not at first, for quite
The
a while.
reluctant poet.
for quite a while after that. The gift of writing was given to me during a healing on the 8th of the 8th, 2018, which is the Lionsgate portal, which is a very important date for me.
By the way, even though this will be coming out later, we are actually recording this on August 8th.
Yes. So divine timing is so superior to anything that we can conjure up ourselves. So I'm very grateful for that, because I also launched my deck a few years back on the 8th of the 8th. So it's a very significant day for me. So thank you, universe. Thank you, Regina, for setting all this up. So
The universe says welcome.
Yes. So, on the 8th of the 8th, 2018, I was in a healing session with my healer, and she was channeling a gift for me. And she said, I'm tapping into a gift. It's coming into my hands and I'm going to offer it to you. And it's the gift of writing. Now, you need to decide whether you want to accept this or not. And I went, what? Okay, I'm here for a healing. What's this? What's going on? I didn't plan for this. What's going on, And she said, well, it seems the universe is ready for you to take on this next stage, if you're ready to take on this next stage. So I physically said, yes, I surrender. And I accepted the gift, not knowing anything about how it was going to play out, how it was going to write, what was going to look like, had no idea. So probably a month had passed after that, and I was coming home from grocery shopping, and this is absolute truth. I had bags of groceries in my hand, and I started to channel these words, and I was frantically finding a piece of paper to write this down, and it was a poem, and I'd written it in 5 minutes. And I thought, okay, so I'm going to do poems. This is how this is going to happen.
Had you ever written a poem before?
Never. Of course never. So I thought, okay, well, let's just go with it. So over a period of about 18 months, I wrote 14 poems, and those poems reflected significant events in my journey. So this deck, to summarize, I guess, is a physical manifestation of my own healing journey. Like it's a map. It's a navigational tool. It's a self-healing tool, but it is based on my physical manifestation of my own healing journey from the poem. So how then it became a deck was completely to my surprise, because my guides did not give me much information. So I thought, okay, I'm going to produce some sort of poetry book. No, 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 no. Now you have to start doing artwork. And I went, what do you mean artwork? I've never actually drawn. Like, you know, I had two guides specifically, a writing guide, a scribe, and then a drawing guide. And I identified them early on. So one would help me with the channeling, with the writing, and one would help me with the drawing. So the way that the process evolved was, and I had never been into art. I didn't have any mediums. I didn't have any utensils. I didn't have anything. So I went out to the $2 shop and I stood there in the $2 aisle of artwork. I said, okay, guys, paint? No. Pencil? No. Texture? No. Pastels? What? What are pastels? I have no idea what I'm doing. So, and and I bought the pastels and I started to create and I started to explore, and they were messy, and it was very much healing for me because my mother never allowed me to make a mess when I was younger. So, hello.
You know what I immediately thought of when you said pastels?
What's
Is
that?
when as kids you used chalk, you know?
Yeah,
Did you ever
yes.
like draw on chalkboards in school and
I
whatnot and
did.
play
I
with
did
it,
have,
or
I did.
hopscotch on the ground or
We
whatever?
did. We did.
Yeah.
So it
So
was
it's
like an
kind of like
advanced version of chalk.
play. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A messier version.
Much messier, and you know, the powder's flying everywhere and it's all over my fingers, and I'm thinking, oh, you know. So I thought, okay, okay, what do you want me to draw? And then they gave me a process, and they said, okay, we're going to tell you what poem to focus on today. Focus on that poem. We will show you what line to pull out of the poem. That line, you need to write that down, and then you need to draw an image that is related to that line, and then you need to channel a message. So it was a set process. I got better at it as I went along because, like, I mean, what am I doing here? And I had no idea, you know, and I started to do it, and this was all on scribbles on pieces of paper, like no proper art paper or anything like that. It was just so rough, you know. And anyway, I was telling my mentor, and she said to me, "You know what you're doing, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm just having a play. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just just doing what I'm being told." And she said to me, "You're creating an oracle deck." And I said, "No, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that." Still in denial, still in reluctance. And she said to me, "You're creating an oracle deck." And then it was about 2 years of work to produce 55 cards. And they were adamant that they had to be 55 cards because
Why?
the energy, okay. So I'm also a numerologist. So the energy of 5 relates to the vibration of transformation and change and evolution. So they said to me 55 because 5 represents transformation of pain to purpose. And that's what your oracle is going to be called. So they gave me 58 to start with. So I was a little bit confused, but then they told me which ones to eliminate.
But then I guess if you also had numerology, you look at 55, so 5 plus 5 equals 1. So what is the
New
significance of 1?
beginnings, new beginnings.
Mm,
And then
interesting.
every number that is repeated, it's the energy of that vibration is amplified. So with the double 5, it means that the energy of the 5 is again amplified again, because it's a very energetic deck. Its maximum impact is its energy.
Uh-huh.
So that was pretty much the story of how it was created.
So 18 months to write the poems and then 2 years to produce the deck?
Pretty much, yeah. So I
Why did
actually
it take so long to produce the deck? Were you doing the artwork for it or?
I was doing everything. I was doing the artwork, I was doing the channeling, I was doing
Oh,
everything.
okay.
Everything was done by
Okay.
me. I was doing I did have a graphic designer that helped me put it together so that it could go to print, but I did the whole process pretty much. Like, it was self-published, I didn't have a publisher. I had to deal with the printer, I had to deal with, the setup, and that's why it actually took so long, because it was a individual project with a little helping hands here and there, but for the most part it was all on me. And I was still working as a healer, and then COVID hit. But COVID was amazing because I churned out so many cards during COVID.
It's amazing what people churned out during COVID, you know? But so basically you had 2 cards per month over 2 years, 2 plus a little bit. So if you take, like, something like
Sometimes I
that.
would do more. Sometimes what I would do, I would allocate 1 day a week, and some days I would do 1, and then some days I would do 2, and then maybe the next week I wouldn't do 1, and then, depending on how I was feeling and what was going on in my life, and I guess how much work I was doing, and how many healing sessions I was doing. So it was to some degree the main focus, but it wasn't. So I had to sort of kind of fit it in with everything else that was going on.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm curious because for when you're creating a card, so you've already got the poetry, that the poetry's out there. So you're having to do the artwork. And are you matching the artwork intuitively to a poem, or were you looking at the poem and then creating the artwork from it?
I was actually being guided to a particular, like, I'd start on that day and I would say, okay, which poem do you want me to look at? And they would direct me to the poem. And then I would just scan and they would tell me what line to stop at. And then I would extract that line. And then from that line, I would then tune in and channel the image, and then I would draw the image. And probably another thing that took me so long is I'm a Capricorn and I'm a perfectionist. So by the time I'd finished the artwork, I had to make sure it was perfect. And then I would draw the image and then sit with the image, and then I would channel the message that would ultimately go into the guidebook.
Mhm. And had you 55 poems already written, or were they
No,
less
there was
poems and
only,
you just took different segments of them?
it took different lines. So there was only 14 poems in total. Um, but certain poems I extracted more than 1 line, obviously, because to make up 55 quotes, which appear at the bottom of the card, I would have, if it was 1 per poem, I would have had to written 55 poems, and no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no,
So I'm
not
gonna
doing.
put you on the spot because I didn't warn you about this. Do you have one of the poems to read?
I do. I was intuitively told.
That universe poking in my
That
mind.
universe gave me the heads up, Regina. So,
Okay, great.
yeah, and I do. So some of them are a bit long. I don't have to read the whole thing, but I think probably the best way to do this is because the oracle is called Pain to Purpose. The first cards I was going to show was the pain card and then the purpose card. Now, the pain card comes from the first line of this poem. So, it's sort of kind of 3 pages, so I don't know if you want me to read the whole lot. Oh, it's 2.5 pages or not, but I'm happy to read it if you think that if it will be of benefit for people.
How pertinent is it to read, like, one entire page?
Probably pertinent because I can actually show you the card that comes from the poem.
Okay, why don't you just read the first page of the poem?
All right. Okay, so this poem is called Closer to God. What I'm gonna do is, if it works, I'm gonna hold up the card at the same time. They're not in order. I might have to go shuffling a little bit, but, 'cause, I did get some intuitive guidance that I needed to read the poem, but didn't get the details. Okay, so the poem's called Closer to God. From a place of pain, insight was gained. And so this is the pain card. So you'll see that quote at the bottom. It says, from a place of pain, insight was gained. but it took a while to find my smile. Years of grief, pain, and deceit, which leads to this card, the grief card. Ironically brought me back on my feet. Wisdom I had found in my ability to ground. And then we have the wisdom card with the same quote down there. So these are just a few examples. I'll continue to read just the first page. Questions I began to ask, learning a not so easy task. I know that card is lesson, but there's 55 cards and I have to go shuffle it to find it. But as the clouds began to clear, the sun's rays finally reached my ear. Lying deep inside of me was a depth I could not see. A light unlocked my door. From then, I knew there was so much more. I have the light one, I think. They're not in any order, so it's a bit hard for me to go in and just find them. I'll continue reading. On a path of self-discovery, I started from belief patterns I departed. Step by step, I came to know just how much I needed to grow. There was much healing to be done, time to walk or time to run. My path started to unfold, no longer living through the blindfold. My mind began to open to receive that had been unspoken. Messages I began to hear surprisingly without any fear. I did not understand at first. At times I felt my head would burst. What started out as muffled noises slowly turned into the clearest voices. These were the sounds of silence I first began to hear from my guidance. As I listened from within myself, more and more present I truly felt. I began to practice the method to go within, and this brought me closer to God than I had ever been. More and more I began to recognize my true self that was buried deep inside. Into a new world I delved, my thoughts no longer shelved. Into a vast big sky my soul was finally allowed to fly.
And that's the first poem.
That's the first poem. No, that probably wasn't the first poem, but that's the one that I was directed to pull out to read.
Okay. So as listeners can hear or see, out of that one poem came probably, 5 cards?
At least, yeah.
Yeah. And they're relative to different lines in the poem itself.
Yeah.
But, what I like about the poem is it's not frilly. It's not, looking and seeking, because, sometimes when people write poetry, they feel like they need to use these big words and these very existential words or
Yeah.
whatnot. And your poetry is just very honest and personal and telling the
Simple.
story. Yeah, simple, I think, and relatable as well. And definitely after doing the podcast with you and hearing your story, I can see where it shows up in the poem, where the story is showing up in the poetry as well.
Yeah.
So how hard was it to write these poems?
Not hard
I mean,
at
yeah,
all.
it was hard because you said it's poems, but I mean, was it bringing up things for you? Were you healing? Did you feel like you were healing as you were writing as well?
Absolutely, because this was another layer, I believe, to my soul and heart opening, like to be able to activate my own healing through my creative expression, which I hadn't done yet. So it was another layer of the healing, because by now I'd had already been on my path for at least 6 years. So I had done a lot of courses and inner work and psychic ability development and all that. So now they said, okay, well, now we're going to utilize all that and you're going to start channeling and you're going to start, writing. And so yeah, it was quite the journey. It was very cathartic for me to write. I didn't really realize when I was creating it how healing it was for me. It was also at times hard to face another deeper layer of whatever because I mean, I embodied every single one of these cards. I embodied every single one of these titles, you know, pain, purpose, wisdom, grief, guilt, shame. They were all part of my journey, and they were depicted in these images suddenly that I was channeling, and it was actually quite an amazing process, but it wasn't always an easy one. The poems came really easily, but to actually sit with the image myself and connect to the image myself and to connect with that part of me, that trauma, or that triumph, because it's it's shadow and light, you know, it's the yin and the yang, like there is on the front of the box. So it's not all challenges, it's also triumphs, because we have the process from alchemizing the pain into purpose. But it was the most incredible healing experience, and I actually had quite a lot of fun also drawing and discovering and thinking, okay, so I can draw after all.
Was there any particular image that was really very difficult to sit with?
Yeah, there were quite a few. I'll show you this one. So this one is pattern, and the quote says, "By now the pattern had surely been cemented." And the way that it was given to me was that it was like these patterns are like corresponding to the colors of the chakras, were all the belief systems that I had either inherited from my parents or my religion or my culture, that I was wearing like a poncho.
I was just saying that it looks like it looks like it's a poncho.
This was my drawing guide. His name was Miguel, and it turns out he was a shaman, but I didn't realize at the time that he was a shaman, a Peruvian shaman. I thought he was Mexican, but that wasn't, because my shamanic path hadn't started quite yet. So, but the realization now is that this was his card. He loved the colors and he wanted his card, and this would be the poncho that we put over ourselves to cover up, that holds all of these belief systems and programming and conditioning and everything that we've inherited from our trauma or from our ancestors, like an heirloom, you know. So I did a lot of work around my mom and the generational trauma that was passed on to me, and the ancestral trauma. And so this one was quite significant. I mean, they're all significant, but the other one that I guess was significant as well, most significant, was this one.
Okay, so I'm going to describe it with what I'm looking at. It looks like so it's a hand with a finger pointing down, but there seems to be, it's almost like the hand is attached to a syringe of some kind.
Yes.
Okay.
So this one was very confusing when I first channeled it. And the card
And this
shame.
one is shame. Yeah.
Shame. Yeah. And it says, "With fear and shame, I was infected." So it was like I was put down by shame. And then there was this injection of shame being placed on me from people around me, from cultural beliefs, from religion, from anywhere else. But it was to put me down. So that's
It's
why the
interesting
finger's
that you
pointing down.
channeled that, because I mean, for me, I'm looking at that card and I can see that. I can definitely see what you're explaining, because I know you were worried that some of the cards would be too abstract to explain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see that, because it is a hand pointing down. And I'm just curious, when you're reading the cards, do you read them reversed as well, or is it you have no reversals in the deck?
If they do come out reversed, I do, but they don't normally come out reversed. I think subconsciously I put them in the right way, so I don't know, but most of the time I read them right side up. But if they do particularly come out reversed, I do go intuitively and I honor that coming out reversed. So then I give the reading accordingly too. to how it does come out, but very rarely do they come out reversed.
So I'm just curious, for something like that, what would be the reverse reading for that? What would be the reverse understanding of that?
Okay, so if that one came out reversed, I would think, because right side up, it means that you have fear and you have shame. If it was to come out the other way, then you would be looking at things like perhaps arrogance, misuse of authority, and then perhaps you would have shame around those aspects rather than shame from fear. So it would switch it around to be still shadow work, like still not a positive thing, but probably the reverse of, I would look at the reverse of fear and shame as being arrogance, maybe being outspoken, maybe being too reckless, you know? That's an interesting question because I've never been asked that. So you like to challenge me, Regina.
I do. The universe didn't warn you about that one, did they?
No, no. Like, for example, on the same topic, like this one, wisdom. And, you know, it's showing a tree grounded. If it was to come out reverse, we would look at, okay, well, maybe you're not connecting to your wisdom because you're not grounded. Then you would need to look at some possible ways where I could help you ground or connect with your intuition or, you know, along those lines.
But twist the card back around, because it looks like, for me, like when you look at this card, so it's definitely, it looks like the outline of branches going in, and that with shrubs kind of around
Mm,
and a blue sky in the background,
mm,
but it's like very barren as well. So it's almost
mm.
like there's no, again, I go and use this word frills. It's grounding, but without all this other stuff. I mean, maybe it's very basic type of primal grounding.
Yeah, the images are very simple, but yet deeply embedded in rich symbolism and metaphorical
Hmm.
meaning. And they're meant to be speaking directly to your subconscious. So the simplicity of the poems is coming through with the theme of the simplicity of the images, that there's bright colors, but there's not a lot going on. You know, some oracle decks, the images have got a million things going on in the one card. If they were adamant that they needed to be simple, vivid, the energetic impact was the important thing, and the individual interpretation and resonance, because it was to be used intuitively and there was no right and wrong, and it was up to people to take that journey on within themselves and connect to the deck in their own way, the way that they're meant to connect to it, wherever they are on their journey. So it's all about you connecting to the deck, holding the card, and I mean, there's the channel messages. You can directly go to the book and read, but I encourage people to actually connect, invoke their own energy into the deck, like connect, sit there, go through each card, put it up to your heart, connect to it, see what's happening in your body, see what emotions are coming up. You know, are you feeling uncomfortable? Does it make you feel sad? Does it, what is it conjuring up in you? Look at the image and use your own intuition. In the guidebook, there's no layouts. It's very simple. You know, some of these oracle decks they give you like examples of 4 or 5 different layouts, and then they explain how to lay out the cards. There's none of that in the guidebook. It's to be used intuitively at your own pace and for you to invoke your own energy and connect to it. It speaks to the subconscious because it's been proven that 90% of our actions and our thoughts come from our subconscious. So our subconscious is where our shadow lies, those parts of us that we don't want to.
We have a special offer from Antoinette to all our listeners. If you wish to order this beautiful Pain to Purpose Healing Oracle deck, you can receive a $10 discount, as well as a personal one-card reading via email with your order. All you do is send her an email at AntoinetteThompson.com. The link is found in show notes with the subject podcast listener. You know, as you're talking and you're saying to do it at your own pace, and I don't know why it popped in my head, at your own risk. And then you talked about shadow work, because I'm thinking that, you know, sometimes when you work with cards, you don't know what's going to come up. And you kind of sort of need to set the stage for what's going to come up, and especially with a deck like that.
It's the energy is quite intense, but the beauty of it is there's no right and wrong. And, you know, there's no set way, you know, you can shuffle them, of course, like a traditional deck. I mean, it is an oracle deck, but in some ways it's not a traditional deck. So, you know, you can shuffle them, you can ask for a message, you can sit there and look through alphabetical order. You can sit there and say, okay, what do I need to work with? What does my guides want me to know on this day, you know, and then see what comes out, or sit there and feel, you know, it's all about feeling, and it's all about connection and allowing the image to speak to you in the way that it needs to speak to you. And you may interpret it one way and someone else may interpret it a completely different way. And that's okay.
And how do you use the deck? I mean, after you created it, did you use it immediately, or did you sort of say, okay, I need a break from that? I've been working on that now for 3 years?
Well, I
I
sort of
need a
kind of
break.
wanted a break, but whether the break came, because I actually did, when I launched it online. And I was offering free readings for people. So I went straight in and started, you know, shuffling, and people would join me online. It was live, and then I would do a 1-card reading for them. So that's how I actually launched the deck. But no, I started using it straight away. I started to use it for readings. I then started using it at retreats as well last year when I started doing retreats. I'm feeling like that there are workshops coming from the deck, but I sort of got a bit sidetracked from the deck to do my shamanic course last year. So I think I'm circling back now to the deck, now that I've done my shamanic training, and I feel like the universe is wanting me to create maybe a course or
Part 2 to the deck.
you know.
Sorry. Why
Well,
had that come up before?
maybe part 2 to the deck, but in a form of a book.
A more extensive book.
Yeah, like another, I guess, navigational tool to help you with your own healing journey, but utilizing the cards, but putting it into some different form. Don't have a clear vision yet. Maybe exercising some of that reluctance as well. But
So if somebody
eventually I
wanted,
listen.
yeah. So if somebody wanted to use these decks, what kind of person would be drawn to these deck, you think, or could benefit the most from using this type of deck? Because it's not, you know, it's not light and fluffy.
It's not
We get
unicorns
that.
and rainbows, people. No, it's
No.
not. It's not unicorns and rainbows. And I have a feeling that perhaps, even though it was published a few years ago, I think the world wasn't ready for it yet. I really truly believe that, because you've got to have the willingness to accept the invitation to go within. And you've got to have the willingness to do the inner work, because each card has got so much potential work attached to it that it's not one of these decks that you're gonna oh, I want a positive affirmation for today. What am I going to pull out? And there's this picture of a rainbow or a unicorn or a mermaid or a dolphin or a whale or, yeah, all these beautiful, lovely things. No, that wasn't going to be my task. But of course it wasn't going to be my task, because my life hasn't been like that. So I needed to stay deeply rooted in my story, and then tell my story so that other people can have the courage. Look, I'm going to say you need courage. and you need, but at the same time, it's okay if you don't have that courage. It's only a willingness to open your heart, because it's all about, on the backs of the cards, you'll see a heart, and it's all about embracing your duality. And if you're ready, even if you're not ready, let it be a prompt. This is what I mean. It meets you wherever you are. You just have to have an open mind and an open heart. That's what I would say. And the willingness to go within that journey of yourself, to do the inner work. That it's not all shadow. There are light cards too. I don't know what the ratio is, but
Show me a light card then. Show me a
okay.
light card.
Let's show you a light card. Ascension. So it says, a light unlocked my door. From then I knew there was so much more. And I think that was from the poem that I just read out. I think that one.
And it's like looking through a window at the sun shining.
And letting the sun come in, letting your light come in.
Yeah, because it's coming actually through the frame. Yeah,
that's true. Realizing that ascension means healing. There's no fluff about it. For you to evolve and for you to ascend, you have to heal. It's the center point. Without that, you can't continue. Like, you can't evolve. You can't ascend. Let me just find another one.
Yeah, I was just going to say, show me another one.
So this is sun. And I think I read that as well. The quote says, the sun's rays finally reached my ear.
Yeah, so I was just about to say, it's like an ear.
It's an ear.
Lit up.
Lit up.
With something going in it.
Yeah, so finally listening to light, finding the light, connecting to the light, hearing the messages, hearing your intuition, hearing your authenticity, not being in that complete darkness, in that complete shadow. So that's the sun card.
And you know something? It looks like in the middle of it, it looks like a tiny bone has been drawn. And because you have a bone, I think, in your ear.
Yeah, right in the middle, yeah.
And that has to do with how you receive sound, I think, how you receive information.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, when I started to channel, I used to hear muffled noises because I had too much noise in my head. And then when I started doing my Kriya Yoga and my meditation, the muffled noises became clearer because I was getting rid of all the other toxic self-talk, negative self-talk, drama, all of that. And then slowly, after a few years, it didn't happen straight away, the voices became clearer and I could hear.
I'm kind of grinning and laughing because I'm remembering when it was somebody who I used to follow her work for a while. I had a session with her and she told me that I had a bone missing somewhere near my ear because people were, people in quotes, beings were angry at me because I wasn't listening to them. So they took out this bone. Of course, I have no proof of that or whatever, but it's just kind of interesting. That's always
maybe energetically, energetically rather than physically. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
interesting.
Yeah. Wow. So, do you yourself pull out a card from this deck every day?
I do.
Or every now and then? Yeah.
Not every day. Not now and again. If I'm in what we call in shamanic terms condor level or hummingbird, which is more the light two aspects of the medicine wheel. I have done because there is light in my deck as well. It's not just shadow, so don't be afraid, people. Don't be afraid. But for sure, of course, I use it all the time. I mean, the cards are getting a little bit. You can tell they're starting to be a bit used. Leaning on the when you put them together, there's like a silver. I've got 55 cards all over my desk right now. But they haven't, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, but they have like a little bit of a rainbow.
Yeah. Okay.
So I use them all the time. I use them for myself. I use them at retreats. I use them in sessions. I use them for readings. They're a map, they're a navigational tool to help people, and they're visual, so people can see the image. And this is another one, believe. This is a light card.
Why does that look like it deals with your stomach?
Actually, I never thought of that. There's like a racetrack where you start and you finish, and then you go twist and turn. But the quote is called "Believe and you will never lose your way."
Okay. Because to me, it looks as like, you know how you have all
The intestines, yeah.
the intestine, but it also interesting because isn't the aorta shaped something like that as well?
Yes, and you know what? This is magical because we are in live time showing how it's open for your own interpretation and resonance. So maybe
Yeah,
there's some,
exactly.
and when we talk about this being the intestine and the aorta, and I had episodes with my aorta. It's also, belief is also self-belief, which is also connected to the solar plexus, which is also the stomach. So the different layers of the deeply embedded profound meaning that I must admit I never saw it as an intestine, but I'm happy to take that on because that's an amazing interpretation.
Yeah, because also, that's related to how your stomach and the whole that area is how you digest life and how you digest what's
Yeah.
happening to you. And, and if you're blocked from start to finish, nothing comes
It's
out.
not going to be
So,
good. It's
yeah,
not going to be
yeah,
good. So, and then, the twists and turns and the blockages and it's not, the journey is not a straight line.
yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So there's a lot of light as well as shadow and this is another one, gratitude.
All right. And I'm going to tell you what I think about this one too. So
Please do.
I just have this image of, and I don't know what they are. We used to see them when I lived in the Bahamas, and it was like some fertility symbol that was almost like
Ah,
a woman sitting with her legs spread, like giving birth. I
yeah.
can't remember what they were called, but we used to find relics of them in the Bahamas because we used to have like Arawak and Lucayan and Caribbean
Ah,
Indians in that area. These were some of the remnants that we found, and that just reminds me of that.
that's amazing. That's a beautiful interpretation. It's like, the goddess and feeling blessed and feeling grateful and
Yeah, because the
the
card is gratitude.
it's
Is that what
gratitude,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. And what does it
Yeah.
say? What is the
It
poem? The part of
says forever grateful, forever blessed. This is the transformation of seeing that gift in the adversity that we talked about in our last podcast. But I saw it as also like the colors of the flame. I was given the blue and the orange and the red, but also the sign of namaste.
yeah, yeah. So
So
it's
this
just
is
interesting because
yeah,
the artwork is very abstract, and
abstract,
so
vivid, simple,
yeah,
vivid.
and so you can interpret it as you wish. Where some cards are very, okay, this is what you see. This is an exact representation of what you see. So yeah,
Yeah,
hmm.
there's none of that. There's none of that in this deck. That's for sure. And I encourage people to look at the card and to sit with it before you go to read the channeled message, and then use the channeled message as a prompt, maybe for journaling or for bringing feelings to the surface. And then some of the guided messages give you practical ways to work with the energy, and so. But the first thing is to connect with the card and use your own intuition as to how it is. It'll always be perfect. It'll always be
Well,
perfect.
in order to connect with the card, we need to have the cards. So where do we get the cards?
Okay. So I have stock. So you can actually go onto my website and I have a shop there, and you can order them online. Because I'm in Australia, I do have certain zones that come up automatically, like when you go into to find out the shipping, but I couldn't put the whole world in there. So if you happen to be in a country and you're wanting to purchase my cards and you're in a country that doesn't come up automatically, please message me, contact me through my website, through email, and then I can go ahead and work out the shipping separately. But otherwise, if you're in one of the zones, like I've got the US, the UK, major zones, Europe. But as to individual countries, some were not included in those zones. So if you're not included in that zone, just please contact me. Otherwise, you can go through checkout and do it all online, pay by card, and then I shall post it out to you.
Okay. And I think you have a video. It's like the unboxing of them on your website. Is that you that has that?
Yes.
So you actually see better than we're doing right now. You see better the
Yeah.
individual cards and the book and the deck.
I do have a YouTube video. I think that's the one that I've connected to my website. I do believe that might be the one. I hope it is. If it's not, it's a separate one. But I think it just goes through and shows every single card. So you can then stop the video and have a better look and that. So I'm
So
pretty
I'll put the
sure.
link to that. I'll put the link to that in the show notes so that
Yeah.
listeners, if you want to, you can go, because right now we're really discussing, the background of the card and the process, etc. And we're not exactly showing all of the cards. And that video will give you a much better representation of the cards. But now you also have the background behind it and an understanding more of what they're about. And then also, if there's anybody out there who's listening, who is like me, who was a former holistic shop owner, who would be looking for cards like this to put in their center because they are very special and they're hard to find, please do also reach out to Antoinette as well to put
Absolutely.
them in your holistic center.
And I offer a wholesale price to retailers. So please reach out to me and I would be happy to speak with you or liaise with you and offer you a wholesale price if you're actually a retail shop or a holistic healer that wants to actually use them in their own practice as well.
Yeah, because that is the kind of deck that I would definitely have put in my holistic center, because I always used to search for decks that were a little bit different and not the mainstream. And you would never find um, uh, all these, I hate to say it, Doreen Virtue decks in my, it's true, I'll say it. You would never find a Doreen,
I'll
you
back you
would
up.
never find a Doreen Virtue deck in my holistic center, because I just thought they were just too airy-fairy, and
Yeah.
I wanted something that was deeper and more different. And of course, I really love imagery as well, because I find it's very rich. And of course, you can see just between the talk that we're having now, what it can bring up for people intuitively.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so definitely. But wow, this has been very, very interesting. And I'm surprised actually at what I'm pulling up when you're showing me the cards, what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, what is the universe trying to tell me?
I know, right? Pesky universe. What do they want me to know?
She's pulled up these cards, and I have problems with my digestion.
Right.
So yeah, so I kind of went, what is that card telling me? And I have had some issues in the past with my heart beating too fast as well. So it's just interesting how you bring it in. Your body is like trying to speak to you, and it's not just your body. I think it's your entire being is trying to speak to you in different ways.
Your energy, what you need right now. The universe, when I do readings, I always say to people, you may not get what you want, but you'll always get what you need.
I don't need that. Yes, you do.
Yeah. So, it's not its ascension is not unicorns and rainbows. That's the reality of it.
This is true. So is there anything else you want to add about this deck that you think it would be important for listeners to know? Or your process in doing it?
No, I think it's, if I can just say, don't be afraid. You know, don't be afraid of your shadow, because in the darkness that's where the light comes in. Your shadow is where your gifts are, and it's unconscious. But with tools like mine, with this deck, some there's energy holding your hand. You know, you don't even have to. If you wanted to go to a holistic healer, that's fine. But you could. It's a self-help tool. You can use it yourself without, that initial investment of buying the deck and then doing your work. And then, of course, if you need support, it's about supporting and it's about empowering you to live your best life and to go back to your authentic self and to live a purposeful life that is soul aligned. And to do that, we have to heal. So healing is the whole center of ascension. Without healing, you can't have evolution or ascension. So don't be afraid and give it a go. I would love my creation to reach all the corners of the world.
Well, I hope that there are listeners from all corners of the world, because I know just from my stats that I've got people listening from Canada, people listening from South America, from
Hmm.
Asia, from Europe, from
Wonderful.
the UK, Australia, New Zealand. So yeah. So hopefully they're listening to this and they'll reach out to you. So,
Great.
listeners,
Awesome.
I really thank you for joining us for this mini podcast, as we call them. It was just a special episode. And I thought it was important to show this deck because it is a process and it really relates to someone's life and their experience. And the fact that it was a process that also came through poetry as well. I mean, from poetry, from pain to poetry to art to a card. I mean, that's kind of like a simplified description of the process,
Yeah.
and then spread that out over 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but thank you so much.
over my whole life, really, because it's a logbook of my whole journey.
That's true. That's true. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, Antoinette. I really
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time. Please hold up the deck one last time so I can see it. Hold up the front of it. Yes, there it is. It's this beautiful yin and yang that is surrounded by flowers, I believe. That's in a
Yeah.
heart.
In
Yeah.
the heart. And then inside is we've got pain is where we grow. And then on the inside of that one says, within your passion lies your purpose.
Oh, that's beautiful. You should have showed those in the beginning.
Yeah, I should have. I got
That's
sidetracked.
okay.
But
And that's
yeah,
lovely colors as well.
the colours of the heart.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I really appreciate your time yet again and the sharing of that process and sharing of your creativity. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, all of the links again will be in the show notes. And I wish all our listeners a very beautiful day or evening, wherever you are in the world. And until the next time, goodbye, everybody.